Hello and welcome to another video review on our YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about a completely new scope made by Swarovski, the Z8i 3.5-28x50. This is still probably a prototype. It's probably the first one which went outside of the factory. And what is really interesting with this product is that it was introduced in mid-year. It was introduced now in 2019 and I think in June. So very uncommon, since most of new products, at least in this industry, is introduced either at SHOT Show in January or at IVA show in Nuremberg in March. So Swarovski did something completely different with this addition to the Z8 family of rifle scopes, and they introduced it in the middle of the year, at the start of the summer. So what they did, they first organized I think it's called Hunting Summit for influencers, YouTube influencers, bloggers and Instagram influencers, where they showcased this new product. And immediately after that, they did all the dealer trainings in Italy, where we had the opportunity to test this scope and to shoot it on longer ranges and so on. So I don't know if this strategy was intentional or not. I do still like the excitement and everything what goes with it when new products are introduced at these big shows. So if I say something more about the Swarovski, you probably know they are based in Innsbruck. They're producing hunting and sport optics ever since 1949, so quite an old company, and currently they are one of the leaders in the premium segment of hunting and sport optics. This scope in particular is made for hunters who do a lot of long-range hunting, so it's following the new trends. What was really interesting is that Swarovski is already offering a DS scope for this purpose, and in the premium segment there are not many other competitors. At least if I'm thinking about the scopes without an integrated laser like the DS, the only premium long-range scope in reality is the Zeiss Victory V8 4.8-35x60. So there was definitely a gap and a niche. So in this niche there is still quite some room for the competitors. Now we have two of them, the Zeiss V8 with a 35 magnification and the Swarovski Z8 with 28 magnification. So two different tools for solving the same problem. As you probably have seen in the last decade or something like that, similar, a lot of people started to shoot while hunting on longer ranges. You can also see this trend on YouTube with a lot of videos, like the long-range hunting block is probably the most famous one. Then the EU long-range hunting is also quite famous. And a lot of guys who do hunting on longer ranges used to use military scopes or tactical scopes. So it was quite common for them to use 5-25x56 scopes with a mil configuration and so on. And however, in the hunting community, there is a wish and a trend that only hunting equipment would be used. So a lot of people have objections against using military first focal plane mil scopes for this purpose. And this is something what Swarovski is addressing with a DS scope and now with this high magnification Z8 scope. And also from other premium brands, the Zeiss is addressing this segment of the market, and I would say a little bit half of a step under the European premium range of products. There is also Leupold with their products with high magnification and made for hunting. I like this trend that if you do long-range hunting, that you use hunting equipment, not a military equipment. Even though tactical scopes are highly suitable for long-range shots, it goes down to aesthetics and the whole idea of hunting traditions. If I go through physical properties of this scope, it's approximately 380 millimeters long, so 38 centimeters, which is extremely long in my opinion. I will get back to this, not a feature, but this property of the scope later. But on the other side, it's really, really light. It weighs only 665 grams, so extremely light. As you can see, fit and finish is typical Swarovski. It's really beautiful, elegant, and nicely made. It features 30 millimeter main tube, so it's quite slick and slim compared to the main competitor, the size V8. This scope can be either purchased with 30 millimeter tube or as a rail, like the example which we have here. So for mounting either with a rail or with rings. So it has a side focus, a side parallax, which has like an indent at 100 meters, so it stops at 100 meters here. It's really, really nice. So for the majority of hunting situations, you just leave it at 100 meters. The parallax goes down even below 50 meters. I would say down somewhere between 40 and 50 meters, somewhere in between. It also has the illumination control on the eyepiece. It has fast focus eyepiece for the diopter change. And it has a 56 millimeter outer diameter of the objective bell. This is important for all of those users who use night vision clip-ons. I would say everything else is expected, like a normal thing which you expect on the Z8 scope. Everything else is more or less standard. If you already have any other model of the Z8 series, this is basically the same scope. And I also think it's very smart because probably from the design perspective and development perspective, they're using all the existing technologies and all the existing parts which they already use in other models of this series. They just extended the magnification range all the way to 28. If we go to the optical properties, this is a true 8x zoom. It's really, really bright. It has 93% of light transmission rate, which is extremely high for a super zoom scope. It goes from 3.5 magnification all the way to 28. At 3.5, it has 12 meters of field of view. So honestly, you are able to use it even on close range. You would be able also to use it on while stalking or when taking a shot at 40 meters only or something like that. You know, in hunting situations, it happens a lot of times that you have to take a shot on really close range. So the field of view is not that bad. 12 meters at 100 meters, it's enough. It's also, I would say, on the upper limit for majority of clip-on devices, either analog or digital or thermal for the night vision use. It has no tunnel effect, and the sharpness, at least for what we tested, this, I would say, pre-production model, it's all what you expect from Swarovski. It's really, sharpness is great from edge to edge, also in the center normally. And the field of view is really, really big. So the image, when you look through, it's big, and also the eye box, it's nice and easy to use. It also features all the technologies on all the coatings and everything what you expect and get on other models from Z8. So the Swaro Top, Swaro Aim, Swaro Light, and so on. All these technologies are already explained on our blogs and so on. In general, they give you better optical performance or better functioning of the illumination system. The scopes are shockproof for any caliber, so even if, and normally it's expected because with long range hunting you usually use some really powerful calibers like 300 Remington Ultra Magnum or similar. This scope will cope with the recoil without a problem. It's made in Austria, where Swarovski is based, and has a 10 years warranty. If we go to the reticle is in the second focal plane. At the moment, I think there are four options. So they are mostly all hunting styles with some additional hash marks for holdovers left to right for the wind. In general, you can also get this scope with a reticle which has vertical holdovers, but since it's a second focal plane scope, I wouldn't say that that's really useful. I prefer the way of thought that you use the turret for the elevation adjustment and not the reticle in scopes like this. What is in common to all the reticles is that they're very, very thin. They're even too thin for some people. And even when there is the lightest dusk or dawn, when there is beginning of low light situation, you already need, majority of people already needs the reticle illuminated, since the reticle itself is so thin. On shooting on longer ranges, this has advantages because it doesn't cover a lot of the target, so you can really precisely place your shot. But on the other hand, in low light situations and similar, for some people they find it challenging to use these reticles without the reticle illumination. So they use the reticle illumination even during the day to see the reticle better. The illumination control, like I said, is on the eyepiece, and like with all Swarovski scopes since the Z6 series, you have a predominant switch, or you have a switch where you choose either daytime mode or low light mode or nighttime mode. Then you have plus and minus on top to adjust the illumination precisely. So the illumination works really well. It has really a lot of different stages of intensity, or different intensity levels. So in any situation you can adjust the illumination accordingly. What is also true, it's the illumination is really nice to look at. It's rounded, it's finely adjustable and so on. It is, however, true that it's a little bit bigger than with, let's say, with Zeiss or some other manufacturers. But on the other hand, anyone who looked through these scopes have seen that the dot itself, it's like on the edges, it's a little bit transparent. So you're able to see, even though in specification you will see that the dot covers a little bit more than from the competitors, but in reality, when you look at it, it doesn't cover that much target because all the edges are like transparent. You only see them when you turn the scope on. I would say you have to look through it to understand it. It's not that clear cut to explain it and not looking at it. We also have a video of reticle substantions on this scope, so I would suggest you go and check that video and you will know what I'm talking about. Okay, now the turrets. The turrets are the same like on all Z8 scopes, and this is very smart because you can use the ballistic turret flex, so the BTF, which we also have a separate video how to use it directly on these turrets. They're also resettable. I'm resetting it, you see. So the resettable is 0, and everything is made out of plastic. This is a shame. The side cap also carries the spare battery. You just push this and the battery will fall out. With one hand I will not do it. And if we go to the internal adjustment range, this scope has 140 centimeters of elevation and 70 centimeters of windage. This is not really a lot, because honestly speaking, on long range, if you really shoot on big distances, 140 centimeters or 14 mils of elevation is not really that much. So to be honest, with majority of calibers, with this scope you will get out to 800 meters and not any further. But for hunting, this is more than enough, let's be honest. And also with the DS, it's made that you don't shoot over 1000 meters because of the ethical reasons. The click values are there's only one option, is 1 centimeter. And normally the turrets can be upgraded with the BTF. The BTF can also be purchased with individually engraved values for your ballistic curve, even though I think their solution with numbers which you get when you buy the standard BTF, it's also great, because if you ever change the ammunition or anything else, you're just able to reset the turret really easily. So the turret doesn't have a zero stop when it's covered with caps or any turn indicator or anything similar, but when you put on the BTF, you have a zero stop, you have a locking function, and you have 70 clicks in one turn, which gets us to a next, I would say, dilemma. When you put this on a rifle, and if it's not completely leveled, if the mount is not perfect, it can happen that even though you will have 70 clicks on your BTF, you will reach the extreme of the internal elevation sooner. So that means that maybe you could only use 60 clicks on the BTF turret. So the logical step would be to buy 20 MOA inclined mounts. But 20 MOA, it's approximately 6 mils. So that means if you change how the scope is mounted on a rifle and you incline it by standard by 6 mils, it can happen that, again, it depends from the mounts, that you will have a problem that when you will zero it at 100 meters, you will already be really, really close to the upper extreme, because there is only 140 centimeters of travel. So I would say that if you would really like to adjust the BTF and everything finely and precisely, it would be a smart idea that the scope is mounted by a gunsmith who has some experience and understanding of this matter. All in all, if you have 60 or 70 clicks, it's more than enough for all long-range hunting if you're not going past 800 meters. If you go past 800 meters, buy a DS scope from Swarovski. I also have to point out later in the comparison that other manufacturers, to be precise, Zeiss even has a bigger problem in this segment. So if I do a short summary, what I find really good on this scope is that everything is designed classically what you expect from the Z8. So really nice fit and finish, great optical performance, great additions like you're able to buy the nice accessories for this scope, the throw lever. You're able to buy really, really high quality lens covers made of aluminum and so on. So all of this is really, really positive. What is also positive, the BTF, this ballistic turret flex, I think it's a great system because you're always able to remove it or reattach it, and you're also able to set it without having the scope in the same place and so on. You just zero the scope at 100 meters, then calculate the ballistics, and you're able to set the turret accordingly. I also like the idea that that Swarovski did a long-range hunting scope without an integrated laser, because all scopes with integrated laser have some shortcomings when it comes to optical performance, and especially in low light conditions and similar. So I think it was a smart choice. Then if we go to things which could have been done better, first of all, I will point out something which is really, really debatable. So the 50mm objective lens. We know that a lot of long-range shooters and long-range hunters are thinking that 50mm objective lens is enough, that the weight has to be reduced, that this is more important than the size of the lens. And I respect this. When you talk with a lot of folks who shoot on long range, they say, okay, we hunt and shoot on long range during the day. There is a lot of available light and so on. And it's legitimate. I also think that Swarovski listened to these people. I was in some meetings even when, like Thomas Haugland and similar folks who really do a lot of long range shooting, said 50mm lenses are enough. This is one aspect. The second aspect is that we all know that scopes when they go on high magnification, the image becomes dimmer, because normally the higher the magnification, the more light you would need and the bigger lens you would need. So Zeiss went and did a scope with a 60mm lens. That means the 60mm lens gives you a lot of light on high magnification, but it also gives you a lot of weight. Now, I understand how Swarovski thought. One thing was that a lot of people are saying go with 50mm lens because 56 is already too big. The other concern was Zeiss already has a scope with a really big objective lens, with a 60mm objective lens. So they went into the other direction and they build a scope for customers who appreciate low weight, who say, okay, I have to carry this in the mountains on all-day treks to trek on wild game. I need a light scope. So I understand completely why they did the scope this way. For me personally, I would prefer with a bigger lens to get more light at higher magnification and to have a brighter image. But this is just me. And like I said, this is debatable. What is not debatable is that 140 centimeters or 14 mils of elevation, it's not really that much. And this is something what I think if they would squeeze out additional 10 or 20 centimeters, so additional 1 or 2 mils, everything would be much easier. How to mount this scope, how to use the BTF and so on. I will not talk about the BTF itself, even though I think it's very positive system and a smart design with locking function, with zero stop function, with everything, with removable option and really easy way of removing it. What I don't like with the BTF is, and what I don't like also with this turret, is that everything is made out of plastic. I still prefer aluminum or metal. I also think what could have been done better is that the scope is really, really long. If it would be shorter and more compact, it would look even slimmer, but normally there are some physical constraints why it's hard to make a high magnification scope which would be short. This is completely understandable. Now, if I go through general impressions and some general summary when we went through positive and negative, I would say regarding the pricing, this scope is about 100 euros more expensive than the rest of the line. So it's costs 3,279 euros, 100 euros more than 2.3 to 18 by 56 scope from the same series. So what I think about the general is that we know that with a 56 millimeter scope from this line with an 18 time magnification, that's enough for shooting on really, really long distances. 18 times magnification is enough to take a shot at 800 meters. The problem is how to judge the animal in reality if you are hunting. And this is something where this scope will shine because of its 28 time magnification power and its optical performance, the quality of optics which is produced by Swarovski. And I think that the general scenario will be, or the most common scenario will be, that you look at the animal at, let's say, 300 or 400 meters, you put the scope on the maximum, or really close to the maximum, and you're able to judge what kind of an animal it is, even if you're not using the spotting scope. Because if you're using the spotting scope, there is always a problem of changing the shooting position. You're going at the spotting scope, look through it, judge the animal, then you have to change the position and look through the rifle scope to take the shot. This is something what this scope makes a lot easier. And also, if you're hunting in the mountains, if you have to carry the scope and then the spotting scope separately, you're carrying a lot of mass. So I think this is the main advantage of this scope, and someone who really wants to see all the details on longer distances, this is the option to go for. If you're sensitive to low light performance, then you still should go with the 56 millimeter models. So if I'm doing a little bit of comparison, this is something what I wanted to leave for the end. If I'm looking against the DS, so the price itself it's not that apart. This is 3,279, and then you need a little bit less than 300 euros for the BTF turret, which is a must on this scope. I don't see any point why would you buy this scope without the BTF turret. So you're going up to, let's say, 3,600 euros, and then we know that the DS is around 4,200 and something, 4,300. So the difference is 600 euros. It's not a big difference. But it is a big difference in why you're using the Z8, this model, or why you're using the DS. So first of all, the DS is it's a really capable tool for someone who is not really intimate with ballistics, because everything can be set, and then even someone who doesn't know anything about the ballistic will just press the button on the DS, will get the aiming point, and will be able to shoot on longer distances. The downside is that the optics is not even close to the optical performance and quality of this scope, and this is normal because the DS has an integrated laser. The second is that the low light performance will also be better in this scope than in DS, even though the low light performance in the 56mm model will be even better, but still. And the third difference is the weight. The DS is a heavy scope, this one is a light scope. And the DS has a 40mm tubes, so the aesthetics of the Z8 is also better. If we go and compare it with the Zeiss Victory V8, which is also normal because these are practically the only two real competitors in this class, I would say that Leupold, at least in the European market, is not as popular as the Zeiss and Swarovski, so even if they have scopes for long-range hunting, at least in the European market, they are not as popular. And we know that Leica and Schmidt & Bender at the moment have no similar models. Schmidt & Bender thus has the new Axus with a 21-time magnification, which is also, as I would say, a scope which can solve similar problems, but with a very different design philosophy. It's like downgraded tactical scope into a hunting form. So I would say that the only two real competitors in this premium high-class range of optics for long-range hunting are the Zeiss Victory V8 and this one. So what are the differences? I think it was really smart from Swarovski that they went and designed this scope completely different, so that they are attracting a different crowd of customers, even though they come from the same group of people who would like to do long-range hunting. So the main difference is weight and size. The size is really huge, it's really big and heavy. This one is small, a lot more elegant and lighter. This is the first difference. Optically, they are, I would say, very, very similar, even though Zeiss does outperform Swarovski in terms of low light, normally, due to the 60mm objective lens. Apart from that, what is, I would say, a little bit problematic with both of these two scopes is the small elevation range. Both of them have, Zeiss has on the turret, on the ASV turret, has a 50 centimeters elevation range, and this one has a 70 centimeters elevation range on the BTF turret. So the Swarovski does actually outperform in terms of elevation Zeiss, even though Zeiss has 36mm objective tube. I would also say at the highest magnification, 35 against the 28, optically the Zeiss outperforms the Swarovski. Normally, it doesn't have the lowest magnification as low as Swarovski. So where is the big difference is also that this Swarovski can be used for all hunting at close range, which is a little bit problematic with a V8. We know with a almost 5-time magnification, if you need to take a shot at 30 meters, it's going to be a problem. So the field of view, it's better on this 3.5 model. And the use with clip-ons, night vision clip-ons, it will be much easier on the Swarovski than on Zeiss. So they are both great scopes. They are both scopes with some, I would say, with some areas where they are not as strong, and I would say it's quite easy to decide between both of them. if you wish to have really extreme magnification and low light performance, you go with size. If you wish to have a compact light scope, which is more suitable for hunting in mountains, and if you will use the additional 2 mils or 20 centimeters of elevation, go with Swarovski. If you're using the clip-on devices, also go with Swarovski. So it's not such a hard choice. Okay, this was it. I hope you liked the video, and check the Reticle subtensions video of this scope if you find all the information useful. Also, please subscribe.